Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I wanted to give you some thoughts on my NBA, some opinions that I may have in regards to the playoffs as I've been giving you these last couple of days. So I want to keep that going. And to be honest with you, the Miami Heat are on my mind right now because the more these playoffs go forward, the more faith I'm having in their team. And the reason why that is because they are all buying in so very obviously to the full team concept in a way that I haven't seen very often, in a way that San Antonio used to do it, as to where each and every man is not necessarily looking at what they have in terms of their minutes or necessarily what their role is going to be from game to game. It appears to be almost completely situational. And I'm seeing the same thing out of the Golden State Warriors as well, which is why I'm starting to believe that those two teams may actually be the two that come out. And it's because you're seeing such blatant sacrifice from player to player. They've allowed their coaches to have complete reins over the roster in such a way where guys are willing to sit, not play at all. Guys are playing shorter minutes. You're seeing role players have big roles in certain games. Just between these two teams, just in terms of in matching up and in terms of just running the game plan. And that's not something that you see everywhere. You know, watching the Lakers all year long, didn't really see that. We saw a lot of turnover, but it wasn't in the name of strategy. You know, it was a lot of turnover because it was chaos. People had other things in mind other than winning. You could clearly see in these two locker rooms, winning and strategy is the priority. It's the most important thing. So I'm extremely encouraged by what I'm seeing by the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors. Now, tonight we got a couple games that are going to be very interesting. You got the Bulls and Milwaukee got a game this evening. You're going to see the Brooklyn Nets and, of course, the Celtics. And then Philly and Toronto will be giving it another go as well. And just to give a short rundown of what I expect to see tonight. From the Boston Celtics, I think, and I've mentioned this already, they're going to have to come in expecting Kyrie and KD's best. And I would be on alert for their role players as well. You got to assume that they're going to react very, very well to getting their hearts broken in that last game, especially when they had such intent on responding to that crowd that was giving Kyrie all of that bad energy. KD obviously played the worst game you ever seen, and you can't expect that to sustain, even though you expect Boston's defense to continue to be the way that it has been. You expect KD to make the adjustments on that and be more effective. That's just going to happen because KD's that great. And Boston knows that. So they probably have a different game plan entirely. Maybe they switch their game plan and start giving Kyrie that attention tonight. Or maybe they have an entirely different thing that they got set up. But that's the point. You're seeing strategy be really introduced into these playoffs. And while that's something you're going to see every year from every series, I think for me it's most notable because of the type of players that are being moved around in what way. So as it pertains to this particular series, obviously we're expecting on Ben Simmons to be returning in Game 4. That's the latest. When we say returning, introduced is a better way to describe it. My thing with him is his responsibility is to be a defensive player. And if he's not able to give them his best defensive effort, his limitations on the offensive end could become a liability for the team, especially since he has never played with these guys. So he's such a unique talent. You got to surround him with the right weapons. And, he's probably best with the ball in his hands, which doesn't hurt because both of those guys, him and Kyrie and KD, can catch the ball from whatever position he puts them in and work from there. That's not going to be any issue whatsoever. Ben Simmons should immediately come in and average more than 8 assists. Just immediately, just off of the strength of what he does absolutely naturally. The problem is it's not the offensive end, it's the defensive end. It's can he stay in front of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or whoever they're going to put on him? Can he get 50-50 balls above, ahead of the guys like Jason Tatum? You saw how quick Jason Tatum's mind was on that final spin move. That type of instinctual gift that those two superstars got over there in Boston, coupled with the other players that they have around them, including Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year, you just very much understand that the Brooklyn Nets are up against it. They're going to need more from other people, but they're also going to need KD to bounce back and play like KD and not not necessarily not adjust to the physicality that he's being shown. So we'll see how that goes. I expect the Nets to come out and play amazing, to be honest with you. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting KD and Kyrie to react very well to this and right the wrong from the previous game. I don't think Boston played well enough to make me feel confident that they're going to just have their way with the Brooklyn Nets 2 games in a row. If it weren't for that little play at the end, the breakdown, however that went down, and a very, very bad KD game, Boston Celtics definitely lose that first game. And we're talking about this series in an entirely different light. So I'm sticking with the Boston Celtics in 7, but that's why it's going 7 games in my opinion, because you don't really get to say that anybody has an edge. Even if, let's say, Boston wins tonight, I still think the series can go 7, because when it shifts back to Brooklyn, you're going to see other guys play better. You're going to get more out of the Patty Millses of the world and the Bruce Browns and, Claxton. Those guys are going to feed off the crowd in a much bigger way than they probably will play tonight. So that's what I'm expecting to see. The Nets going to get this one tonight on the road, and then wouldn't be surprised if they get game 3 too. So just keep your eyes open. Kyrie's on a mission, especially, and I don't think KD struggles 2 nights in a row. All right, Milwaukee, Chicago. Now, this one's interesting to me because I do think Chicago's put up a much better fight than I expected them to in Game 1. But they still have some gaping holes in their defense as it pertains to stopping the most important player to stop, which is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I think that's just why Chicago goes home in the series, and that's why they would go home against Philly probably as well. They just don't have that guy that they can throw at Giannis at this point. I think Patrick Williams could someday be a part of a tandem that could help with that, but he's not going to be able to do that at any point in his career, in my opinion. You're still going to need another person. Vucevic can't do it. You're missing Lonzo Ball's tenacity and stuff like that. I don't think Caruso's in the greatest conditioning just yet in terms of the type of, shape that he usually is in. When we see him at his best, he's not back yet. And I just think that hurts a little bit too, coupled with just when they're all playing well, the Bulls fit with one another. The problem is when they're not all playing well, or when you're missing a few of them, now you're leaning on a few of them to do things that maybe they're not as great at. And when we say that, we're talking about Zach LaVine. I like Zach LaVine, but he really doesn't fit on this team at all right now. They have a rotation of guards and forwards that can defend and pass and do all types of different things. And while Zach LaVine is one of the most lethal athletes in God's green earth and can string together 8 and 9 threes in a row on a hot night, he could really, really go for 35, and you can actually expect that from him. But he doesn't get other people involved. He's not particularly somebody that you're looking to make plays for others. I mean, he'll do it, you know what I mean? It's not like he's just deficient as all hell. But that's not his game. And one of the reasons why the Bulls are so good is because everybody does that. So when you have to lean on him, you don't have Zoe in the lineup, and you have to lean on him, he's going to do what he does. And that doesn't get the other players involved on the floor who would be otherwise used to getting involved, because there's always a facilitator down there, multiple facilitators at that, getting the ball popping and in rhythm and going in all different types of places, including to Zach LaVine, from which he can benefit from depending on how the lineup is set up. I just look at him as a very fantastic offensive talent who fit on old Bulls teams, but now on this Bull team, now it's like, okay, you'd rather those minutes go to defensive and kind of wiggly Io, you know what I mean? Because he can do more for you in that lineup than just the things that Zach LaVine most definitely does. And I don't know of Zach LaVine defensively, so I don't speak of him defensively. I just can't say. But I know of Io defensively, and I want him on the floor. You know what I mean? I need DeMar DeRozan on the floor at all times. But DeMar DeRozan is going to be at his best when he's taking more shots. Zach LaVine takes those shots away from him. Same thing with Kobe White. Now I need Kobe White. He has the same type of functionality as Zach LaVine. He's looking for his own shot, shooting a three, slicing into the lane, trying to get to the basket. They pretty much do the same type of things. Neither one of them known for being great defenders. Neither one of them known for facilitating the basketball. So what do you have now? It's two players on the floor who are going to be at your guard spot, not looking for others. When your dynamic is most best when you have Zoe and Caruso and DeMar DeRozan, who do pass the ball to everyone and each other. You see what I'm saying? You're leaning more on me first guys as to where your best functionality is to lean on the guys that pass it everywhere and defend and have multiple ways of doing things. So I'm telling you what I'm expecting to see. I expect in the offseason for the Chicago Bulls to try to unload Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. Not because I've heard any rumors, not because they're bad guys, not because anything's wrong, but because they can trade those pieces for the pieces that best fit the other pieces that they have. Basically, they need that guy who can defend Giannis, Joel. They need DeAndre Ayton. And while I don't know that DeAndre Ayton's on the trading block by any stretch of the imagination, I think that's what they should be trying to look for, that type of piece. Maybe even try to trade to see if he's in the draft. Maybe you can get one of those top 2-3 guys if they're that ilk. But they need that player. And what they don't need is Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. Good pieces. The wrong pieces for them. Very expensive too, which keeps them from getting other pieces that they ultimately need. And I think that's why they're not going to win this series. They can win this series without Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic if you insert that player that can do something with Giannis. Do you see what I'm saying? Because they have the other pieces that can close the game. They got the other pieces that can shoot. You got the pieces that are going to get people involved. You got defensive pieces. All of that stuff is on the floor when Zach LaVine and Vucevic are off of it. Because that's not what they do. Do you see what I'm saying? Vucevic isn't fast. He's not particularly defensive as a big man. You know, his game is kind of predicated in the paint, even though he can shoot a little bit. It's not really looking to move it around that much, although he's fantastic rebounding. He's not banging with people in a way that can be explosive like a Robert Williams or something like that. They need an Evan Mobley, a Scotty Barnes, a Karl Anthony Towns. That's what they need. And until Anthony Davis, Chicago needs somebody like that. And until they get that player, they're not going to have any success in the Eastern Conference so long as these guys like Joel and Giannis walk the earth. It's not happening. They're a great team in the regular season. And if they bring this team back next year, they'll probably win 50 games, 55 even. But they're going to run into one of those players, first round, second round, just like now, and they're going to be gone. Why? Because that player is going to repeatedly eat in the paint over and over and over and over again, and they ain't going to have no answer for it. That's the Chicago way. I hate it because I love how their team is put together. They don't have to blow it up. They just got to trade those two players, and those two players can get them a gigantic return because those two players are super valuable but super expensive. So they should definitely do that. Trade both of them dudes. And I know Zach's on a high contract. I know that. But I also know he can live up that contract if he goes to the right place. He's a real scorer. He ain't nothing to play with. He just don't really fit with you guys anymore. You know? So it is what it is. That's just how I see it. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. Giving away a guy like Zach LaVine ain't smart. You know, he can, in open court, he's explosive. Listen, he's valuable. You know, he's a covetable player. It's not like I'm saying you should be down on him. It's just about fits, matchups, what a team needs, what it doesn't, what it takes to win. Just the wrong piece. Both of those guys, wrong pieces. So that's how I see that series. I do believe that they're going to be gone in about 5, if they even win a game. It's tough, man. I think I probably said Milwaukee was going to sweep them, but I'm not sure. I might have gave them a game. I'll say 5. And as far as tonight, yeah, Milwaukee's going to win tonight too. Sorry, it's just the matchups are bad for Chicago, man. You're on the road. They're going to take care of home business. Champs, what can I say? All right, and the next series, as we said, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors. Toronto's depleted, you guys. This don't even have to be a long conversation. This conversation can be even shorter than the last one. I do like some of the things that I saw Toronto do, but as long as Tyrese Maxey's going to play like a superstar, it's over with. I mean, you already don't have an answer for Joel Embiid. James Harden is irrelevant. And here's why. Because, well, no, that's not true. Let me preface that by saying he's not irrelevant. It's just that what he's doing is enough. Even though he's not playing well, that's enough. Why? Because Tyrese Maxey is James Harden. They just switch roles. James Harden is giving you the production you expected from Tyrese Maxey, and Tyrese Maxey is giving you the production you expected from James Harden. What's the problem? I was listening to Shannon talk about that. I think it was Shannon saying, oh, the Philadelphia 76ers can't win with Tyrese Maxey. Why not? Why not? James Harden's right there being Tyrese Maxey. If Tyrese Maxey wants to beat James Harden, let it be. Because Joel Embiid is still going to be Joel Embiid. And Tobias Harris seems to be in the best form we've seen him play in, probably. He's playing the best ball of his life, maybe. So, as far as I can tell, Philadelphia is going to be pushing past this round and maybe the next one as well, depending on how things go. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with Philadelphia's approach so long as Toronto can't do nothing about it. Let Tyrese Maxey go for 40 every night. If he can do it, let him do it. As far as I can tell, he's been doing it all season. It's not like he's new numbers for those who have been following him. The only time his numbers actually fell off is when he had to be removed from the lineup for either injury or COVID protocol. Other than that, the dude was a walking nightmare for any defender that had tried to stay in front of him. I told everybody on this channel this over a year ago. When I discovered Tyrese Maxey, I said he has ridiculous speed. He's like De'Aaron Fox in terms of foot speed. He's just as fast. But the thing about him is he's a lot better shooter. He's a lot better shooter than De'Aaron Fox. He's shooting at 42% right now. So as far as I'm concerned, just because you didn't know of Tyrese Maxey or because you seen Tyrese Maxey in a role up until this point doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to ascend into something different starting right here and now, which is exactly what he's doing. So, I just don't agree with that take. I understand that Shannon's looking at it a certain way and James Harden's supposed to be James Harden, but no, it's a new day. That's a fresh talent showing you that he's next to make $200 million maybe. You know what I'm saying? How do we not know he's that? How are we so certain that he can't be a guy that leads his team to 7-8 championships? It's time for him to define who he is and react to that. That's my thing. So I just don't like telling people who they are and who they're not based on just some perception that isn't even based on what we're seeing. If you've been watching his numbers, he is exactly who this is, and they have been winning without Ben Simmons, without James Harden, because of Ty Maxey. So, yeah, man, we putting respects on Tyrese Maxey name in here. I ain't surprised, and I expect Philly to have his money ready. That's all I'm saying. And if James Harden's in the way of that happening, maybe you should assess that. Him not signing that extension, everybody's worried. Oh, my goodness, what's going to happen if he doesn't stay? If he doesn't stay, then they'll be just fine because I have whatever the cap space he leaves on the table. Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, for which they probably should trade for cap reasons. But, they'll have that available to them for someone to join their team and do what it is that ultimately they're going to do, which is, continue on their mission. So if it ain't James Harden, it's somebody else. And I am not in the mindset that I'm supposed to, as a fan, stress over a superstar when I'm looking at the field and seeing new superstars popping up every day. You look at Brandon Ingram, what he just did. You sure he ain't going to keep doing that for the next several series? You sure he ain't going to take over the series and define himself and just literally win this series because he is that dude and tonight this is day one? Are you sure that ain't the case? You don't know until they do it. And that's why I'm open-minded. I'm not sitting here waiting for James Harden to lead Philly. No, Tyrese Maxey's telling you he that guy. Let him be it. And then it's so on and so forth. So, I'm big on the youth movement, and it's here and now. That's where we at. So I'm not worried about not having, say, that superstar, this superstar. We're going to get the next one. We got the bag. Somebody's going to want to play here. It's only 30 teams. We got a spot. Somebody's going to come play. And if you don't like that somebody, you trade him. We talk about it every day. So it is what it is, man. I'm going to go eat some food and listen to this. And I thank you all for doing the same, or at least paying attention to whatever it is I got to say. It's going to be a fun game tonight with the Philadelphia 76ers, Toronto. I wrote that series off, as you can very well see. I do think that this game headed back to Toronto could be very spirited. It ain't going to matter who's on the floor. And the reason why is because you're heading back to that environment. And I know how jumping it's going to be. And I know the memories that Joel has in that building when that ball bounced and Kawhi was in that squat and it fell in and them tears rolled down his face. It's not going to be easy coming into that building for a playoff game. I don't care what round it is. That ain't going to be easy. I do expect him to play well. I expect Tyrese Maxey to play well. James Harden's going to have to shoot better. But even if he doesn't, they should probably still play well. So long as Tobias Harris keeps his end of the bargain up and everybody plays D. People like Shake Milton hit shots, stuff like that. I expect it to continue. Now, on the Toronto side of the game, OG Anunoby's getting in better health, so I expect him to have a big game tonight. What's in store for him should be over 30 points with the absence of some of those forwards. Listen, if you got to sit people, just sit them, man. Don't have guys out there hobbled around. Gary Trent couldn't score. What position did coach put him in, I like Nick Nurse a lot, but there's some questionable stuff going on out there. You don't put him out there to have no production, fam. That means he's a liability to the team. That means you probably should be playing someone else that's not playing in his stead just for the sake of having fresh legs. I truly believe using depth is the way to maintain the longevity of a series. It's not about playing hurt guys because you're running out of time. It's about prolonging the circumstances and playing fresh legs because you know the other team's going to wear down if you can survive. And the only way you're going to close games is to have fresh legs of your best players. And if you run them into the ground early in the series, you definitely going to lose those games and then lose the back end games as well because of it. I've seen too much playoff basketball to not see where they're going wrong. Toronto still has the depth advantage. And while it's very important that they maintain that, they're still losing games. So playing hurt players ain't working. Could it be to the detriment? Possibly. If Gary Trent ain't feeling better, don't play him. If Thaddeus Young ain't feeling better, don't play him. That would be what I have to say, and certainly don't rush back Scotty Barnes. You're going to lose the series anyway, it looks like. Ain't no sense in mortgaging these guys' future. Let them rest. Fred VanVleet's going to have to do more. They're going to need more out of other players, obviously, with those players not being at 100%. Pascal Siakam, man, it's kind of hard to operate when you start removing and plucking pieces, because now the defense crowds you a little more. Now those pieces that you get assists off of not down there. Maybe you don't get the type of looks that you're used to looking because it's just different players you have to run with. And most importantly, when your rotations are different, now you find yourself in a situation where the stuff that you run has to be adjusted to. In a playoff situation, that's very difficult. So I'm not surprised to see Toronto struggle. I do think that they are going to win tonight's game somehow. I think they're going to feed off that crowd. I expect Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and those other champs down there to find a way to scrounge this game out. They're going to pick their poison with one of those three superstars, and they're going to let the other one do what he has to do. Letting Tyrese Maxey run crazy probably ain't the way to go. James Harden's been shooting poorly. Maybe you focus your defense on stopping both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. You see if James Harden can reach in the pass and be Houston Rockets James Harden. It's the best shot I see. I don't know, but at this point you understand that they're outmatched defensively and they're just gonna have to pick their poison. So it's tough, but I'm going to pick them because I don't see a team that won a championship 2 years ago with some of those same pieces on the floor getting swept out of this series against a team they've beaten before. And even though this team got some different weapons, the teams are different at the end of the day. This series is going back to Toronto. And Toronto does have players that should play better. At the end of the day, Fred VanVleet must play better. Siakam must play better, etc. They all must play team ball. And the defensive side of the ball is most important. Obviously, they're missing Scotty Barnes and these guys at defensive. It's going to suffer, but Nick Nurse is going to have to dig in that bench and find something that works for himself. So it'll be tough. It'll be very tough, but we will give it a look and see what happens there. If not, if they go down 0-3, they're getting swept, in my opinion. There's no way to come back into this. So I'm going to lean on the hunger of that old team having won a championship, reaching in and getting that experience and ultimately allowing themselves a chance to win this game. So that's what I'm going to say. That's what I expect. It's going to be a good night. 3 very, very good Eastern Conference games, although I think 2 out of 3 of them will probably be a blowout. At the end of the day, lucky to be in playoff time, and I thank you guys for watching me. My name is BDF44, and I'm out.